Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin Bangin with Mikey, episode 162. And today, what we're gonna talk about is everybody knows that February is Black History Month, right? Um, yeah, and we're gonna talk about it, man. We're gonna talk about me per se. And what's crazy is the fact that growing up in Hawaii, of course, there's there's multiple racial groups here, and very rarely do you see black folk, right? And when you see black folk, it means two things. It's either we college kids or the military, or very few of us grew up here. So yesterday, I was doing some errands and whatnot. I stopped by the local place called Tamura's to pick up some poke. You know, not for today for the Super Bowl because I don't really care about the game. Man. I just wanted some raw fish. So I seen this bruh. He was like probably in his 50s, and he had on this T-shirt that says in green, yellow, and red letters. It said "I am Black History." I was like, yo. So I hopped out the whip because I was parking, and brother was parking too. I was like, hey man, I like your T-shirt. He's like, yeah, brother, appreciate you, right? You know what I mean? Because it's like, as black men, man, it's like, I don't care if you're my complexion, if you're biracial, whatever it is. It's like, it's something about it, man. It's like, there's an unspoken thing about it, man. It's like when black people see each other, especially black men, we just give each other a head nod, be like, "What's up, man? How you doing?" You know what I mean? Simple as that, And like sometimes we speak words, sometimes we dap each other up. You know what I mean? It is what it is, and it's funny because I just thought about something, right? I was probably about 13, 14, and I was trying real hard to be black, right? And I had this thing where I would dap up other black men when I seen them. Like, hey, bro, how you doing? Right? I was trying real hard to to, to be accepted or something, right? And now that I think about it, 20 plus years later, it was foolish, but then again, I was a child, right? So with that being said, man, it's crazy, because a lot of my black family members, they look at me like, "Hey, man, you grew up in Hawaii, well, like you ain't really black, or yada yada yada." Um, and same thing with my other half of my family, which is Spanish and Japanese. It's like sometimes I'm too black for them, right? So I don't like it's a catch 22 because you're constantly battling um not your identity, but you know you're constantly battling how to quote unquote fit in, right? It reminds me of that Fresh Prince of Bel Air episode where Will and Carlton's in college, and Glenn Plummer, who plays the, I think he's the fraternity leader, and he starts giving Carlton all the grunt jobs. You know what I mean? Cleaning the bathrooms, taking out the trash, and all this other shit, right? Because unbeknownst to them, he found out that Carlton came from money, and it's a pretty powerful. I mean, that whole that whole show, man, from episode one to episode, to the last episode. There's so many gems dropped in that show, and the part that stuck out to me was two episodes. It was when they was in college, and when Will and Carlton got busted and got harassed by the police and got locked up. And the same thing in Family Matters, man. Another great show, which I think they should definitely reboot. Anyway, in that show where they're in college, the fraternity leaders giving Carlton all the grunt jobs, making him clean the bathrooms. I think he even made him clean the floorboards with a toothbrush, bro. It was just niggas just foul. And and I didn't remember what the guy said, what Glenn Plummer's character said. But I remember what Carlton said too. Carlton's like, yo, it's like You think just because I come from money, that I'm not black enough? You think just because I live in Beverly Hills that I don't jump through the same hoops that we all do? You know? And it's true. Because they took a serious moment and they made a comedy sketch out of it, or a part of a comedy sketch, but they were still able to drop that message. And that message is true, man. I don't care if you grew up in Hawaii, if you grew up in LA, if you grew up in Watts, man, if you black, or I don't care what part of the world you grew up in. If you black, you already know what the struggle is. Like you're used to, people looking at you sideways. You're used to people locking their doors. You're used to people doing shit like that, right? And it's like a lot of the times, man, we're so caught up in trying to break that stereotype, right? Which is bullshit. It's like a lot of the times, like that particular stereotype is basically ingrained in people from birth, man. It's like one of my best friends, man, brother's got his PhD and everything, right? And he's legitimately smart. You know what I mean? Um, he's black. This girl is white. And they both grew up in Jersey. I love them both to death. They're good people. Um, so I remember he was telling me something once, like, yeah, man. And he's like, yeah, like he asked me something. He's like, hey, man, you ever been around somebody who says that you're one of the good ones, or that you speak so well? I was like, yeah, all the time. And he asked me, like, man, how that make you feel? I was like, man, it makes me feel that people don't view me as a human being. They see my skin color first. They see how I dress first. Because sometimes I'll purposely do that. I'll show up the places in a throwback jersey, you know, some bleach jeans, and some Air Force Ones, and just shock these niggas, right? Because presentation, you know, while it matters, it doesn't tell you a whole lot about the person. It's like when we was talking about at work, the history, the Hawaiian overthrow, and all the other stuff. I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, and like one of my coworkers was telling me, like, yeah, like they had some sort of parade on the 17th of January. It's like, oh, that's because in January 17th of 1893, that's when the illegal overthrow happened. She's like, what? She's like, yeah, go look it up. And I was like, and that's why people, you know, say that Hawaii is, and they're not wrong, illegally occupied, right? So again, history, right? You because they're not wrong, because Hawaii is illegally occupied, you know, and it took them 100 years to issue an apology. When I say they, I mean the United States of America. Anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah. So I said, yeah, and also too, because we was talking about the national anthem, this and this and that. I was like, yo, you realize that we only sing like the first verse, right? She was like, what? Yeah, go look it up. Go Google it. When you have time today, go Google it, because it's like when you look at the whole song itself, it's talking about slavery. She was like, what? Yeah, it's like the national anthem. If we were to sing the entire verse or the entire song, they literally are talking about slavery. They're talking about the Civil War, how to scare slaves, and this, all kinds of shit, right? It's like you gotta remember when that song was written. It was written in the 1700s when slavery was still a thing. It was written when my ancestors were still in bondage. It was written when my ancestors were considered 3/5 human. And by law, you needed to be, if black people were considered 3/5 human, they couldn't vote. Think about it. If you classify all black folk as 3/5 human, and you need it, and you and if one person was given a vote, technically they can't vote because they're not considered human beings, right? Even though they bleed the same, even though everything that everybody else goes through, we go through too. And don't get me started on the prison and pipeline system either. And she's looking at me. She's like, "Damn, you really know your shit." I was like, "Nah, I know a little bit, man. Not a lot. It's like, and that's why to me, history, not just Black history, because Black history is American history, is extremely important. I didn't realize how ineptly uninformed I was until I took a African American Studies course. I was a senior in college, and that course opened up my eyes, man. It opened up my eyes, and it told me, because obviously I was in my 20s. It was like, yo, you got a lot to learn. You got to do more research. You got to be more diligent. You have to, and everything too, because history, if you look at the word, it's two words. It's his story. Two words, his story. Majority of history is written by what demographic of people, right? And that's why it's always interesting to do your own research. It's always interesting to understand your history, and not just your history, being African American, but history in general around the world, right? And which brings me to this, and I'll never forget it. I'm not gonna mention her name because she don't deserve that. I was a junior in high school, and my history teacher, she did a presentation on Tupac, and I remember being, okay, this is kind of cool. And I'm like she's gonna go like the musical route, right? Whatever it is, she didn't. She basically just threw together a presentation on Black history using an artist. She didn't expound on anything. She didn't realize that he was his mother was a part of the Black Panther movement, the free education program, the free food program, the civil rights movement, all that shit. She didn't do all that. And I remember going home, and my dad, he asked me, he would always ask me, "Hey, Mom, hey, what you learned in school today?" And I'm like, "Man, came home to the crib," and I was like, "Pop," he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Man, we had a presentation today on Black history, and it was about Tupac." And my father, he was old school, right? He was like, "Tupac?" "Yeah," because he knew who he was and everything, right? I said, "Yeah, Tupac, man." And he's like, "What about it?" And I was like, "Man, I just felt that it wasn't up to par." And then he was like, "What you mean?" I was like, "Man, it's like, think about it. You have all this information. I believe at this particular time she's going for a master's too. So she's all this information at her disposal, right? And this is what she does. She does this bullshit presentation on that." And I was like, okay. Weird, but okay, fuck it. And it took me a couple of days, and I went back to class and I asked her, Miss So and so. She's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What was your purpose of that presentation?" She's like, "Oh, the presentation 2 days ago? Yeah, that one." I was like, "Yeah, I don't really understand the purpose of that presentation." And she's like, "Well, it was about Black history." I was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you teach history. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going for your master's, right?" She's like, "Yes." And I was like, "Well, doesn't that mean that you have ample resources to actually do research? Because it seems like you didn't do any research. It seemed that you just kind of threw something together just to satisfy the status quo, you know, and she wasn't too happy about that. But it was true, man. Just like, and again, I'm not gonna mention her name, but she was white, so that in turn basically says a lot. I mean, I'm not saying that all white people are like that, but it just painted her in a way that if you're gonna be a student of history or any type of subject, I don't care if it's music, art, mathematics, whatever, know your shit because you don't want to be disrespectful and cause something to be more than what it is because it's not, right? Um, I just thought that was extremely disrespectful, not just to myself and other, because there was a couple. Like when I say a couple, there was three of them, actually four of the black guys in the school, including me and my brother. So, what does that tell you, right? Black people few and far in between, bro. um, but yeah, man. I think it's imperative to realize that, man. It's like you don't you, knowing your history and being a positive presentation of it is important. Um, Very rarely do you find people who are going to represent, the trueness of what history really is. History's ugly. History's violent. It's bloody. There's a whole lot of shit, that a lot of people don't take into context for it, right? It's like people want to say, oh, well, the America's the first place that has, to have slaves. Like, no, 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 no. It was like it's been going on for centuries. It probably still does go on, in 2024, right? I believe the first people, and I could be wrong, to enslave their own people was the Egyptians, as far as I know. Like I said, like there's been civilizations before anything was written down. I'm pretty sure they had slaves too. But those type of slaves were different, where they would conquer, those other tribes, and they would give an option like, hey, either you come with us, or you and a part of our little troop, or part of our little tribe, but we gonna kill you. And then you had other civilizations like the Mongols. They were just brutal. They would rape and kill all the. I mean, well, they would rape. They would kill all the men and all the boys, and they would rape all the women. If that doesn't say genocide, then what does, right? And again, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't attain to be the smartest guy in the room, because like I said about my boy earlier, he has a quote that he says, man. He's like, man, if you were the smartest person in the room, bro, it's time for you to leave the room. And it's true. A lot of people want to be like, oh, they want to tell, oh, I'm so smart, I'm so this. Is like, if you gotta say that shit, bro, then you're not that. Which brings me to this. And this is the last thing I'm gonna hit on. If you gotta say that you're real, you ain't that. People who's told me that, like, I automatically save it in the back of my mind, like, oh, you think you real? Nah, because if you were real, you would have no need to say that. I mean, there's a difference between saying I'm real and I'm direct. I'm never going to say that I'm real. I'm gonna say that I'm direct, cause it's a true thing. It's like anybody who talks to me, they'll be like, yeah, Mikey, he may come across as an asshole, but he's always gonna be direct with you. He's not gonna he's not gonna have you out here, thinking one thing and doing another thing. And it's like, nah, he's gonna just be who he is, and that's what it is, right? And it's true. I'm Not a fan of people who say that I'm real. That means you're not. You know, I don't care what you do for a living. I don't care, what your job title is. Is like, if you think that you're real and you gotta say that you're real to other people, that means you're not it. You're probably just really full of shit. And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? All right, y'all. Let me wrap this up. So, this is about 21 minutes of your life that you won't get back. Let me give you all an update on the album. Album is going good. I've been practicing. The beats are gonna be well. I can't say they're gonna be fire, but they're gonna be fire to me. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, album is coming. The release date is coming. I have a couple EPs I'm working on too. So, your boy is working. Just give me grace because it's gonna pop, and when it pops, I hope y'all enjoy the projects. I hope see y'all next week Sunday. Hope y'all keeping the 4Ps. Private play, positive pushing. See y'all next week. Love y'all. Goals. And like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. Peace.